let's go through the verdict. I was surprised. I'm not going to tell you I wasn't surprised. I always thought that if Johnny Depp won this trial, that it was going to be on count one on the headline. Well, he won on all three counts, and I was absolutely surprised by that. I also thought that if the jury came back for Johnny Depp, they wouldn't be coming back for Amber Heard on anything. And that's why I want to talk a little bit more about the count that they came back for Amber Heard on, because it was very interesting. But I think if we look at exactly what it is, we can understand the reasoning, or perhaps understand the reasoning behind it. And I think that that's important. Hey there, I'm attorney and legal analyst Emily D. Baker. These are the quick bits. Warning, curse words ahead. Let's get into it. I'm going to go through the statements. I'm not going to go through all of the findings because we've been through them so much, but I also wanted to make sure that we are clear on what statements they found, because they needed to find each statement. So with that, let me go ahead and share screen. Let's talk about this special verdict form, count one. The headline, I spoke up against SV and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change. Cultural wrath, always a problem. I agree. But I spoke up against and faced our culture's wrath. That's the first statement. They found that statement to be defamatory. What does that mean? They found that the statement was false. They found that it implied Johnny Depp. They found that it was made or published by Amber Heard. Made or published. This is where the republication comes in. And people were like, but it's kind of clear she didn't write the headline. Fair. She might not have. This is where the republication comes in. Made or published. There are jury instructions on republication and whether or not she republished the headline. And that is where that headline comes in, because the jury doesn't have to find she wrote it. The jury has to find she republished it. Let's look at the republication instruction real fast, because that's what matters as to the headline. It's like, but she didn't write the headline. Okay, she didn't write the headline. She said she wrote the op-ed. She didn't write the headline, but she republished it. And that's where republished it comes in. So because we had the testimony from the ACLU and from others saying normally you don't write the headline. And she testified, I didn't see the headline. Well, the headline in the retweet says, Amber Heard here. I'm going to pull up the retweet too, because that's why so much was made of the retweet. And that's why there was fighting over the retweet. No, the quote tweet, God, and the quote tweet, the mother loving quote tweet. It's not a retweet. I know it's not a retweet. I'm going to keep saying retweet because it's lodged in my brain. It's a quote tweet. Know that it's a quote tweet. It's not a retweet. She added more to it. This is why republication matters. So I don't have the whole thing. But this is the quote tweet we're talking about. Today, I published this op-ed in the Washington Post about the women who are channeling their rage against violence and inequality into political strength. Despite the price of coming forward from college campuses to Congress, we're balancing the scales. And this is the headline that we saw. Opinion, Amber Heard. I spoke up against SV and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change. Opinion by Amber Heard. So this is the republication. And the republication is that she added more to it. She took ownership of it. And you heard her say on the stand that she framed the print version of it. I wonder if she framed this one too. I'm going to guess not. She didn't say she did. And when she took ownership of it, we heard Ben Chu argue in the motion to dismiss that anyone would reasonably believe that that headline was her. And that goes into today I published this op-ed. Well, when you say today I published this op-ed, the headline, opinion, Amber Heard, I spoke up, of course, a reasonable person can conclude that she wrote this, even if you have the ACLU saying, well, normally people don't write their own headlines, and the media generally saying people don't generally write their own headlines. There are people who write headlines. That may be true, but the jury can still find the statement was published by Amber Heard. The republication instruction clearly says, in order to find that Ms. Heard republished the original op-ed, including the headline, through a tweet on December 19th, 2018, you must find that she retransmitted the defamatory material or redistributed the material with the goal of reaching a new audience. not just the original publication, but the Twitter's audience. Stated differently, republication occurs when the speaker has affirmatively reiterated the statement. Did that tweet affirmatively reiterate the statement? Today, I published. Even if she literally didn't write it, today I published. So, yes, when we get to republication, did she affirmatively reiterate the statement? Yes. A hyperlink directing readers to a previous article on the same website does not direct the previous article to a new audience. So just literally just a retweet, no. But when you add it to intend to reach a new audience, yes. Merely linking an article does not amount to republication. That's not merely linking. I published this op-ed. And then the headline was down there. I wonder if that's why they took the picture out, so they had the whole screenshot easy for the jury. You must determine whether any added content was intended to reach a new audience. If you find any content added to the hyperlink was intended to reach a new audience, it constitutes republication. Further, if you find a republication occurred on December 19th, 2018, then in order to find for Mr. Depp against Ms. Heard, you must also find by clear and convincing evidence that Ms. Heard made this republication with actual malice. So determining in the jury instructions that it was published by her with actual malice and knew that the headline was false. And that's what the jury decided. So this is what the jury decided with this. That's what the jury decided. So if you answered yes to each subpart of question 1A, answer the following question. Do you find that Mr. Depp is proven by clear and convincing evidence that Ms. Heard acted with actual malice? And they said yes. Next statement. So that's, again, for everyone who was like, but if the headline wasn't written by her, it has a republication element. That's why republication matters. That's where we're at on republication. Let's go to the next one. Then 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out. Again, the jury found this to be defamatory. This I was surprised by. I thought the jury would say, look, with everything we've seen, we see enough to say that this is literally true. And I wonder how far Camille Vasquez's argument went of you either find all of it true or none of it true. And I wonder how much that stuck in the jury's mind of you either find all of it true or none of it true. Because the jury might be like, oh, well, I mean, if we're splitting hairs, but what's the defamatory implication? And reading the op-ed as a whole is the defamatory implication of domestic abuse beyond verbal harassment, beyond the controlling behaviors or coercive behaviors, beyond that. Is it beyond that? And I think that this is where we had a very clear path to victory for Rottenborn that we saw in his opening statements. And I can't wait to go back and look at those again, because Rottenborn in his opening statement was like, this is literally true. She spoke up. She became a public figure representing domestic abuse, and she felt the wrath. That's literally true. And I think had her testimony on the stand been believed by the jury, there's no way they would have found this defamatory. Clearly, they did not believe her in all of the instances that she laid out of abuse. They did not believe the way it went down. And I think there were a lot of inconsistencies in her testimony, not just internally, but with her own witnesses and then with Depp's witnesses, that Depp's team did a very good job of bringing home to the jury, hey, to believe Amber Heard's side, that means everyone else that came into this court is lying. And they framed it that way in I think in a powerful way for this jury, with them coming back on all 3 counts. Again, I thought we were going to get the headline. That's where I was. If there's a path to victory, it's the headline. I've said it a million times. I am very surprised that they came back with defamation on the 2 years ago, I became a public figure statement. And they came back on, I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse. Because I think, again, literally true. Literally true. Didn't Amber Heard didn't she have the opportunity to see from the inside of Hollywood how institutions protect men accused. He was accused of abuse, but they're like, no. And this is where defamation by implication comes in. Due to circumstances surrounding the publication of the statement, it conveyed a defamatory implication. Did this statement mean or intend to mean that Depp is an abuser? And instead of being literally true, he was accused of abuse. She did see the vantage point in real time. She did, again, I don't think the institutions protected Johnny Depp, but she was saying that that was her perspective. That's an opinion, her opinion of how institutions protected him. But if the defamatory meaning is that he's accused of abuse and he is abusive, then there we go. And I agree with you. I don't think he was protected either. But again, I think that can be argued to be opinion, but they didn't argue it as opinion. They argued it as literally true. So again, the jury, I'm surprised on this statement that the jury came back with a finding of liability that Amber Heard defamed Johnny Depp on this. But when the jury got down to the compensatory and punitive damages, $10 million for compensatory, the compensation, $5 million for punitive. I don't think the jury knew that this was capped. I don't think it was said in closing briefly by Bredehoft, I believe, like we're only asking for $350,000 for punitive, but I don't know if it was really broken into. And that's why I think the jury sent the message. I also think the punitive damages, I don't think Johnny Depp gives a shit about the $5 million in punitive damages. I don't think he cares. I think that punitive damage award let you know how the jury feels about this case. It was, here's $10 million. We think that that's appropriate compensatory damages. How they picked 10 million, who the fuck knows? No idea. No idea where they got to 10 million. Hey, it's a round number. I don't know. 10, not 20. Like, maybe Pirates was too speculative and it wasn't sure that Pirates was going to be made and it hasn't been made. And then 10. I don't know. Everybody feel like 10? Sure, 10. Great, 10. We're 10. I don't know. But the punitive damages award is the punishment damages. The punitive damages is the, hey, don't do this again. And let's look at the jury instruction real quick on punitive damages, just to put a little bit more of a pin on it. Punitive damages are punishment damages. I like that they start with the same letter. It's why I call them the punishment damages, the you suck damages, the fuck you damages. That's what they are. If you have found by clear and convincing evidence that the statements in the op-ed were made with knowledge that they were false or so reckless as to amount to a willful disregard for the truth, that is, with a high degree of awareness that the statements were probably false, then you may award punitive damages to punish Miss Heard for such actions and to serve as an example to prevent others from making such statements in the future. You must state separately in your verdict any amount you allow as compensatory damages, if any, and the amount you allow as punitive damages. So you may award punitive damages to punish Miss Heard for such actions and serve it as an example to prevent others from making such statements in the future. $5 million of no. $5 million of we don't believe you. $5 million of don't lie on people's names. That's what the punitive damage is. That is $5 million of we don't believe you. That's what I think the punitive damages say. Truly, that's what I think the punitive damages say. And when it comes to the Waldman statements, I believe there's a jury instruction in here that they can't get punitive damages on the Waldman statements, but I don't remember. So let's see. Yes, you may award punitive damages to punish Mr. Depp for such actions and to serve as an example to prevent others from making such statements in the future. And so punitive damages going both ways here. You can punish Mr. Depp for the statements made. You can punish Amber Heard for the statements made. Amber Heard got 0 in punitive damages against Johnny Depp, and I think that says a lot. And again, when we talk about the $5 million, the $5 million is a message. Johnny Depp's not going to get $5 million in Virginia. It's capped by law at $350,000. We talked about that earlier. $350,000. I don't think Johnny Depp ever cared about the money. When his attorney stood up in closing and said, this isn't about the money, this is about giving him back his life. That is, I think, what this is about. We'll see how they settle on the damages and on the judgment. They can negotiate the judgment down. They can agree to less. Johnny Depp can agree to take less. Um, he can also go after the whole thing. It's up to him. Um, it's up to him. I think they're going to seek some sort of permanent injunction from making these types of statements again. And I imagine we're going to see a lot of fuss made if a permanent injunction is sought about silencing someone. And I imagine it will be formulated somewhat in the same way that we saw in the Cardi B case of these are the things that you shall not say. And in the Cardi B case, it has all kinds of colorful language about what Tasha K can't say about Cardi B in that stipulated judgment. Let's go to the special verdict form for Heard's claims against Depp. And again, these are the Depp-Waldman statements. As to this statement appearing on April 8th, 2020, the online edition of the Daily Mail, Amber Heard and her friends in the media use fake SV allegations as both a sword and a shield, depending on their needs. They have selected some of their SV hoax, quote, facts as a sword, inflicting them on the public and Mr. Depp. That was found to not be defamatory. So one can assume they either found it not to be false, which is consistent with their verdict, or they found it not to be made with malice, which if they found the other one with malice, why would they do that? And, or the thing that's interesting is because with the jury finding on one of these counts, we don't get to the question of, oh, did the jury just not find Waldman as an agent? Like, I wonder if they found Waldman as an agent. They're like, yeah, he's an agent, but we believe this. We don't find this to be defamatory because we think there were fake allegations. And I think that's why you find for Johnny Depp on all three. So let's go to statement number 2. This is the one that Amber Heard won and said that, quite simply, this was an ambush, a hoax. They set Mr. Depp up by calling the cops, but the first attempt didn't do the trick. The officers came to the penthouses, thoroughly searched and interviewed, and left after seeing no damage to face or property. So Amber and her friends spilled a little wine and roughed the place up, got their stories straight under the direction of a lawyer and a publicist, and then placed a second call to 911. First of all, there is no evidence on the record of a second call to 911 in any of my memory. The second group of officers testified that they believed it was just a kind of a repeat of the first call, that there wasn't a second call. Now, on the internet, we saw that there was there was conversation of another call from Rocky Pennington outside of the penthouses. That's internet knowledge, not jury knowledge. And we're going to, in the coming weeks, talk about what the internet knows versus what the jury knows. But the jury has no evidence of a second call. The jury also doesn't have any evidence of spilled wine and the place being roughed up, because the video from the police officers, the body cam footage, is from the second group of officers. And so the second group of officers showed up and are like, we didn't smell any wine. The place looked fine. So the second group of officers said that there was nothing out of place in the place. There was nothing kind of out of place there. They didn't smell wine. They didn't see this. And that was the body cam footage. So the second group of officers testified that they thought the call was connected to the first call, that they didn't think there was a separate call in. So I don't think there's actually any evidence about a second call. There's a second group of officers that arrived. But on the body cam footage, the place isn't roughed up. And if there had been wine all over the place, the officers would have smelled the wine. So if wine had been dumped before the officers got there, they would have smelled it. And this statement doesn't say that all this was done after the officers left and then photos were taken. And that is interesting too. Could it be that all that happened after the officers left and the photos got taken then? Could be. So I think that they looked at this statement and went, this is not the facts that we see. These are not the facts. And this is not what we have. So I think with that, we don't have, I believe Isaac said he saw wine, and Amber showed a picture of the wine. But I don't think the jury believes that happened in between the time that the two officers came. It could have happened afterwards, but I think this jury went kind of literal and was like, that's not what we saw. And so, yeah, this is false. They found that this recitation of events was false, and that was false enough to be defamatory. which is interesting. Is that a compromise verdict? Maybe. Maybe that's a compromise verdict where there were a few jurors who were like, we're just not going to walk away with this statement. I'm not comfortable with this statement. That's not what happened. And so they said, okay, fine. We'll give her 2 million, no punitive damages. It's not worth punishing, but it's literally not true. That could have happened. That absolutely could have happened. So we'll see. It could be just a very literal parsing of the facts. But that's why I don't think that this is completely inconsistent with the rest of the verdict, because the rest of the verdict talks about more. This talks about this talks about trying to hoax the police. And what this verdict says to me is they don't believe that Amber Heard and her friends tried to hoax the police. They don't believe that they tried to set the scene up to make it look like more happened. And we also have Amber Heard's testimony of, I didn't cooperate with the police. If I'm going to set up a hoax with the police to try to get somebody in trouble, why wouldn't I then cooperate with the police? Very fair point. So I can see where the jury's like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. And I don't think she was trying to make false reports to the police. And I don't think that she was trying to create this hoax. Fine. So they found with the other statements, the fake allegations, they found that not to be defamatory. And they found that the statement that we've reached the beginning of the end of Miss Heard's abuse hoax, they found that. But they didn't think it was a hoax as to the police coming and a setup with regard to the police. Is that maybe splitting hairs? Maybe. Did the jury take their time and think through this? Maybe. And it's possible. Yes, it's possible that the jury didn't think her friends were in on it. And that's interesting too. So I think it's understandable. I don't think the verdicts are inconsistent. So I don't think they're inconsistent. I've seen a lot of conversation about, are these verdicts intellectually inconsistent? Looking at the way that these verdicts came down, I can see that they said, as to this event with the police coming, we don't think that that was a hoax on the police. So with that, I don't think they're inconsistent. I think that the jury said that this is not true, that this statement is not how this went down. And so I think that's fair. I really do think that's fair. How do they find it malice? I don't know. But they decided that they knew that Waldman knew it wasn't true. How they determined Waldman knew it wasn't true, I don't know. Did they think Waldman had the body cam? I don't know. Was it a compromise to fine for Depp? Maybe. Do I think Depp cares that this one statement was found defamatory against Amber Heard? I don't know. Do I think Amber Heard feels like this one statement is a win? No, I don't. All right. So, and that's it. And then the damages. And we know that punitives, they went with 0 because they didn't need to punish anything. And they went with $2 million. Yeah, there was some damage. Okay. Yeah, there was some damage. So with that, that's my breakdown of the verdict. I tried to do that in a kind of quick and succinct way. Yay. The UK case, not only a different system of law, no jury, just a judge deciding, but there was a different question in the UK. The question in the UK was, could the Sun, in their headline, calling Johnny Depp a wife beater, could the Sun in their headline reasonably rely on Amber Heard's statements? Could the Sun believe Amber Heard's statements enough that when they published the headline about Johnny Depp, that they weren't committing defamation libel against Johnny Depp because they had enough evidence to believe Amber Heard? So the judge is evaluating, is there enough evidence from Amber Heard to believe that what she told the Sun makes it more likely than not that the Sun can publish this headline because they believe what Amber Heard said? And the judge made that determination. Now, after reading, and I did an episode on this a while back, and I'm going to reread the UK verdict in light of everything I know now. But the judge found a lot of facts just for Amber Heard. I believe Amber Heard. I don't believe Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp was using drugs at the time. I just don't believe him. And in some of the things, I had questions. The judge found that Amber Heard lying in Australia and asking people to lie in Australia over the dogs coming into the country. And Australia has very strict rules about animals coming in and being quarantined. And there was much made over her lying on those forms. She actually got in trouble in Australia and settled that case. Whether that's being reopened or not, I just don't know. I've seen reports that it might be, but I don't know how that would work. Not a lawyer in Australia. But The judge just discounted it and is like, well, I don't really find that that goes to her credibility. You have evidence that she asked people to lie to protect her. Okay. And there were a few instances like that where the judge is like, no, I've made a judgment call, and the judgment call is I believe Amber Heard over Johnny Depp. And that is one judge's decision. And so when we look at this, case in light of a jury, Johnny Depp had a different opportunity to present evidence in the US case versus in the UK case, because in the UK case, Johnny Depp was not fighting Amber Heard's statements. Johnny Depp was fighting whether or not the Sun had a reasonable belief in Amber Heard's statements. Could the Sun rely on what Amber Heard told them based on photos and her stories and having friends, etc., having friends that backed up her story? So that case was Depp versus the Sun, not Depp versus Heard. The judge in the UK also leaned very heavily into the fact that Amber Heard donated the money. Well, did the judge in the UK know that donated and pledged meant the same thing and that Amber Heard uses them synonymously? No. I don't think the judge was aware of that. But they had already appealed that case. The appeal was already denied. And I don't think that's going to go any further in the UK case. It's done. So with regard to the Australia case, will it be reopened? Could be. I don't know. I don't know their system. And with that, the judge put the weight of the evidence in Amber Heard. And that's where I think we get different results, but I also don't think the results are inconsistent. I think the judge put a lot of weight in that Amber Heard made those donations, and a lot of weight into the fact that Johnny Depp uses drugs and drinks and made that judgment call. I don't think that the jury put that much weight in it, because the jury, seeing Johnny Depp testify, is like, okay, people do drugs. We don't think that you're impaired. Dr. Spiegel, he just reminds me of Dr. Doofenshmirtz. I have no shame. He called Johnny Depp an idiot. It makes me mad. Dr. Spiegel was trying to get to the fact that Johnny Depp had used enough drugs and alcohol that he was impaired, and therefore his processing was impaired, and therefore he couldn't remember these events. Okay, but I don't think that's what the jury found here, obviously. And I think that that's part of Johnny Depp's team's plan. Thank you for joining me for today's Quick Bits. For a full breakdown of this story and more, join me on my long-form channel at The Emily D. Baker, or on my podcast, The Emily Show, on all your favorite podcasting apps. And for more Quick Bits, you can find me on social media at The Emily D. Baker. I will see you for another Quick Bit soon.